everybody, and welcome to this episode of the Fellows Forum. Today, I have the pleasure of being joined by the chair of the ASH Trainee Council, Dr. Caitlin Dykes, who is a third-year Hematology Oncology Fellow at the University of California, San Diego, and the past chair of the ASH Trainee Council, Dr. Maya Abdallah, who is an assistant professor of Hematology Oncology at Boston University. Today, they're here to tell us a little bit about their experiences at ASH last month and some more about the Trainee Council. Dr. Dykes and Dr. Abdallah, thank you both so much for coming on today. To start off, would you like to introduce yourselves and share a little bit about what you do?
Sure. Thank you so much for that wonderful introduction. We're really passionate about the ASH Trainee Council. A little bit about myself. I originally grew up in Minnesota. I became interested in hematology and oncology really early on after some family experiences at kind of a pivotal time in my life when I was deciding what I wanted to do. After that, I went to undergrad in Minnesota. Then I moved up to the East Coast for both my medical school and then residency training. And then for fellowship, I moved to California and I'm at USD San Diego, where currently I'm a third-year fellow, completing a track in BMT for my final year. A little bit other things, about myself personally. While in training, I was able to get married and have a baby, and so I'm happy to touch on those topics as well.
Thank you for inviting us both, and just wanted to share that I'm an international medical graduate. I'm originally from Lebanon, where I did my medical school training, and I moved to the U.S. and became a Massachusetts transplant. Did my residency and chief residency at UMass Bay State in Western Mass, and then did a combined fellowship in geriatrics, hematology, and oncology at Boston University, where I've stayed on as faculty, and I'm working as someone with a focus on malignant hematology. And I'm very passionate about work that helps international medical graduates like myself kind of be present throughout the workforce, and particularly in what we believe is the best specialty, hematology. So I'm excited to talk about that and about all aspects of training. And yeah, open to questions.
Wonderful. Thanks so much for telling us a little bit about your experiences. So I'm looking forward to learning more today about the ASH Trainee Council. To start off, would you like to tell us, first of all, what exactly the Trainee Council is and what are some of the things that it offers?
So the Trainee Council is a really unique group of trainees from all across the country who are at different levels of trainee. The majority are in a hematology or combined hematology oncology program. It also includes trainees who are focused on adult and pediatric hematology, and then we do have some representatives from residency and even medical students. And then beyond the US, we've also had some members who are outside of the US in hematology training. And so we're really excited to have such an inclusive group of trainees. And we meet at least quarterly, and we work on issues that are really essential to trainees. That includes hosting with ASH staff the premier event ASH-a-Palooza that kicks off the annual meeting. In addition to that, we have a lot of initiatives that help support trainees, whether it's women in heme or other underserved groups, to help facilitate their successful training in hematology. We also have a big push to get people interested in hematology early on because that has been shown to be really influential for trainees. Anything to add, Maya?
That was a wonderful summary. I think, as you alluded to, the Trainee Council is really kind of a forum and a platform for trainees to kind of have a voice at the table within kind of the leading hematology association in the world, ASH, and to kind of express the current needs of trainees, because that's ever changing and ever evolving. And the Trainee Council is really open to applications from members anywhere at any point in their training who have a commitment to hematology, be it a clinical commitment or a research commitment. And exactly to Caitlin's point, we work kind of as a team to think of what are the services, what are the activities, what kind of events do trainees need to kind of grow as hematologists, and to kind of, as they develop in their careers, make the path better for those to come afterwards and to network and meet others. So it's really a great forum to network, to advocate, to come together, and to hopefully represent the needs of trainees everywhere.
It's really amazing to hear about all these different resources and opportunities to help trainees navigate the experience and amplify their voices. So thanks for sharing. I'd love to hear more about both of your experiences with serving as chair of the council. How have you enjoyed the experience?
So it's really been a huge honor. As the chair, we're elected by our trainee council peers, and I see my role as the chair to really help facilitate the goals of my fellow trainee council members, and keeping a strong commitment to trainees collectively that we're trying to serve. So for example, if we have a number of different projects ongoing at any given time. And as the chair, I feel like my job is to make sure we're meeting our deadlines and we're thinking about how we can be the most inclusive, keeping things on track in order to kind of further our goal as a trainee council, which is being there for trainees.
Exactly as Dr. Dykes implies, you're kind of one of the group and a member of the group, but also trying to kind of keep everyone on track. And I think in addition to kind of all the inward facing roles that the chair has towards the trainee council, Dr. Dykes has done a lot of work to kind of spread the work of the trainee council beyond TC and to kind of encourage others to join and to apply. So I think as the chair, we always want to kind of broadcast the many benefits of the trainee council, because I felt like I've benefited immensely and I would love others to take advantage of getting involved with ASH and volunteering with ASH at whatever point in their career they are. Volunteering obviously gives a lot to the society and also to the volunteer, and you learn a lot, and you get to kind of rub shoulders with the giants of hematology, and it's really quite the experience, and it kind of fills your cup and keeps you going. So I think the trainee council and the trainee council chair, as Caitlin said, we're privileged to be able to kind of represent our fellow trainees, and we want more people to get involved if they're interested.
Amazing. It's great to hear about your experiences and all the reasons for people to get involved. So I'm sure you had a very busy time last month at the annual meeting. I know that the trainee council had a lot going on there. So what are some of the events that you offered?
The trainee council, every year we really look forward to the annual meeting. It's one of the biggest things that we're involved in, and I think it's such a great way to reach the hematology trainees. To start off, we kick off the meeting each year with ASH-a-Palooza, which is held kind of right at the start of the conference that Friday. And during ASH-a-Palooza, we have invited all of the trainees. And so it's something, if you are a trainee, you should certainly watch out for next year at the event. There's always things like free food, but more than that, there's a lot of networking. You can meet other trainees from all over the world who are at the conference. And it's in a low pressure environment. It's intentionally meant to be an experience that is not overwhelming, and a fun way to go ahead and meet others in a less intimidating setting than what sometimes the annual meeting, where everyone's all, very professional, and there are all those, leaders in the field. This is kind of an event specifically for trainees. And then during the event itself, we have a lot of speakers and booths set up where people can learn about ways to further their own career depending on what their interests are in, as well as other resources to help them along the way. And then we end kind of with a large celebration at the end of the night, which is always fun. Then kind of going later on into the meeting, we do specific trainee focused talks. So we cover a smattering of different topics. One example was, there's only 24 hours in a day. How are you successful at clinical research? We've had other talks that we're happy to dive more into, but there are always issues that are focused on what seem to be important to trainees at the time. And then we also each year have a career development talk where we invite leaders in the field to sit down at roundtables with our trainees and actually have discussions about what their life is like, what their time is spent doing, and their challenges, etc. It's really an open forum for our trainees to meet some of these leaders in a setting that's not too intimidating. It's really hard sometimes to be at a meeting and go up and talk to someone, during a session. But at the round table, it's a little different, and it's a really cool experience.
Kind of building off that, I think both Caitlin and I could go on about ASH-a-Palooza for days. It really is the crown jewel, but I think it sets the tone for the meeting. My whole involvement with Trainee Council kind of started at an ASH-a-Palooza, although I didn't know it at the time. My very first ASH meeting, I was very green, did not quite know exactly what you need to do ahead of time. I was still a resident, chief resident, and I registered for the meeting and just showed up and hoped that would just figure out what to do over there, which hopefully fewer people do nowadays, because hopefully mentors kind of direct everyone. But if that's you, that's totally fine. Coming to ASH-a-Palooza was a way for me to kind of connect with other trainees. I was there on a day where I didn't quite know many people, and it was such a friendly environment, and everyone was in these small groups doing different activities. I got to kind of meet and socialize with trainees from different areas who have different interests and learn about different things ASH had to offer. I definitely did not kind of establish everything to do with ASH right there and then, but it was really a launching off point where I kind of remember I took notes. I was like saving pamphlets people were giving out about different programs ASH offers, different educational series. And then kind of I was able to take all that and absorb it and reach back out to people who I met then and say, well, I'm really interested in XYZ that you spoke to me about. And some of those things kind of never came to fruition, and other things became relationships I've had to this day. So it's really exactly a networking event where you get a lot of educational information, but really it is what you make of it. And you can kind of meet as many people and interact with as many people then, or just take down notes and take down ideas and come back to it in the future. And then fast forward to months later, I think an email blast came out saying, were you at ASH-a-Palooza? Would you like to volunteer to organize this? And I said, yes to both those things. So I applied to the Trainee Council, and each applicant to the Trainee Council is an incredibly talented applicant. Like when we review those applications, I honestly look back and say, what was someone thinking when they even selected me? But in any case, there's really talented people, and each individual brings to the table something different. And that's, I think, what is beautiful about the Trainee Council. The application, which is open now for anyone interested, at least at the time of this recording, it's open in January, and I hope this will come out before the deadline, which is in March. If you're interested, kind of think of what you as an applicant, what you as a trainee would love to see, and apply with that platform, and you would be surprised. I applied as an international medical graduate, saying I really wish there was more targeting IMGs, speaking to our experience, supporting us, helping us network with each other. And the Trainee Council thought, yeah, we agree, we'd love to do that, and selected people with that mission and have helped grow that. And each of us here has, each of us on the Trainee Council has a unique area of what we want to advance, but also a common goal of really representing all trainees everywhere. And I know Caitlin shared a little bit about her kind of experiences as a trainee and things that were unique to her. So I could definitely turn it back to her to see if there are some things, Caitlin, that you hoped to accomplish through TC or that you've done.
Yeah, thank you for that. And I can definitely echo kind of the experience of that first ever ASH-a-Palooza. And I can't emphasize enough kind of how welcoming an environment like ASH-a-Palooza can be when you are early on in your hematology career, maybe even at the point where you're not calling it that yet. If that could be you, come check out ASH-a-Palooza. And if you can't make it to, next year's meeting, look us up online. There's plenty of other things that we can help you get involved with if you're even the slightest bit interested in hematology. It really is a wonderful field. In terms of my specific goals for trainees, I've had an interest in medical education for quite a while. It started when I was in medical school, and then I did some additional projects focused on medical education and residency. And I think for trainees who are trying to learn about medicine as a whole, and then, find their niche within it and specialize, whatever the specialty, whether it be hematology or something else. I think there are a lot of challenges. I think it's a hard road sometimes for trainees, and I think there's a lot we can do to help make the process better, or at least less of a curtain. And so that's something I'm passionate about, and I try and emphasize that in the different ways I'm supporting the Trainee Council initiatives as a whole.
Amazing. Thanks so much for sharing. I know the fellows we work with always talk about ASH-a-Palooza and how much fun it is, so it definitely sounds like a great event. So what you mentioned just now led into one of my other questions, which is, what are some of the challenges that trainees face today, and what are some of the ways that the Trainee Council tries to analyze these and then help address them?
I can maybe speak to one perspective, and I know Caitlin has touched on others in the past, so I'll allow her to jump off that. But I think each trainee has a different background, so I think kind of having that in mind while you offer support to trainees is very important. And again, every person knows their own background the best. So as an international medical graduate, I know there are certain things that were less clearly set up for me than they may have been for others. And it may just, there are always ways to find answers, but the fact that it took me a bit of searching makes me think, maybe I can disseminate this information to others and make their path just that much easier. So I think the background trainees have, and not assuming that everyone kind of has the same background, the same level of support, and the same knowledge is critical and is key. So having kind of resources available that could be tailored to individual groups' needs is very, very meaningful. And I know Caitlin touched upon a little bit women in hematology and kind of some of the individual experiences women may have, balancing work-life balance, or really all trainees, but these are some things that kind of resonate with me. And I think, Caitlin, you touched upon some others, like getting married, having a baby, all during training. So maybe you can tell us a little bit about that and other thoughts you have.
Well, like I say, I did do those things, and I'm certainly still learning how to do it. And I have to give credit to a lot of strong women mentors who have dealt with some of the challenges with doing those things, particularly with having a child. I think as the child gets older, there's new things to learn continually. It's an ever-changing process. Some examples of things that have been helpful to me was just having program support, making sure, having the time off to get to appointments or for doing things like breastfeeding. You really need some support from those above you. And as a trainee, you do, you should have access to that. And if you don't, come talk to us because we can help out. We recently published in our Hematology a whole article on things for trainees who are trying to have a baby during training. And so please reference that or reach out to me individually, and I can give guidance along with others at your institution who may also be interested in that. Beyond some of the women in heme challenges too, I think another initiative of the Trainee Council is facilitating, getting medical students and those even younger or older, interested in hematology. There's been a lot of research suggesting that particularly classical hematology, there's a need for in the workforce. And so trying to expose people to how wonderful hematology is early on is a big initiative. And so a lot of medical schools currently have ASH ambassadors who you can talk to, and they're doing different events that are local to help introduce trainees to hematology. So that's something to check out. And then there's also a lot of work being done with, thinking about how fellowship programs are structured to make sure our trainees who are interested in hematology are getting the training that they need to then have a career in hematology. And so that's another area that's an ongoing process in an area of work that Trainee Council is involved with.
Awesome. It's great to know. Thanks for sharing all these resources. Going back to the annual meeting a little bit, for residents and fellows who couldn't attend ASH this year, do you have any takeaways from the meeting for them, either from the trainee-specific programming or themes from the meeting overall?
Yeah, great question. I think it really depends on where they are in their career and what they're most interested in. I think fortunately or unfortunately, a lot of the networking events and a lot of the kind of meeting others and learning from others are in person. So to a large extent, those are most of those opportunities are in person. However, the educational events are really accessible virtually with quite a bit of ease. I'd encourage them to kind of download and play around with the app for the annual meeting. There's an app that has kind of specific filters with which you can kind of look through. I'll back up to say for hematology oncology fellows, if you are a member of a fellowship program that is part of kind of a consortium with ASH, hematology fellows, you have access to all things ASH educational for free, including the annual meeting and the annual meeting virtual platform. For residents, I believe it is very discounted, but I would refer kind of to the website to look. And for medical students, I believe it's free for everyone. So just make sure that if there's any concern about a financial barrier, reach out to ASH staff. The email is on the website and double check, but it should be accessible to for free in terms of educational material. And then on the app itself, what I really love and why I was kind of leading up to that is there are certain filters you can apply. So there are trainee didactic activities, and you can filter by those, and a lot of those are some of the in-person events that Caitlin kind of very expertly described, like the career development lunch, like the ASH-a-Palooza. Those are all wonderful, but a lot of those are interactive networking sessions. What I also really enjoy is the kind of educational activities, and there are different filters. So there's the newest and coolest updates in hematology, and those are wonderful. But when you're early on in your career, sometimes they're a little, or to me at least, they were a little difficult to follow when someone was really getting into the nitty-gritty of the newest line of treatment for something, a drug that's about to be released. When I'm still thinking, okay, so what is AML and how do I diagnose it and how do I treat it? So a lot of the educational programs have virtual recordings of the live session that are kind of an A to Z. They start with an intro to the topic all the way through what's current and what's coming. And those are really incredible opportunities. And they're also published in written format. So if it's hard for you to kind of keep track or to read, ASH puts together an educational book that you can also access, again, for free through that platform and through the website, I believe. And that should be, I think, a great resource to do some targeted reading if you have a specific concern.
Yeah, I cannot emphasize enough how helpful that education book and the education sessions really are. They do an excellent job of synthesizing, where we are in the field and give a little bit of a teaser as to what's coming based off of what's being presented at the meeting. And those resources are things that I'm finding myself continually referencing as well. They're just very helpful and very well laid out. It's generally by an expert who's leading that research in the field. Beyond that, as Maya mentioned, a lot of the in-person events have passed for this year, but you can look towards next year. Many of those things like the career development lunch or ASH-a-Palooza and the things like round tables for mentorship, that sort of thing will be held again at the upcoming annual meeting. And so if you weren't there this past year, there's certainly opportunities in the future. And then kind of throughout the year, the Trainee Council also has a lot of initiatives that are for trainees that you can get involved with. A couple of things off the top of my head would be our board prep course, which is held in the summertime. We have different lectures on the hematology topics that, again, are a very good overview for trainees. They don't go into the nitty-gritty of the research, but are really focused on clinical practice and what is, things that are board testable. And then there's some live Q&A question sessions, and that is done regularly all summer long leading up to the board exam. And that is free for anyone, and it's helpful for those who maybe aren't studying for the boards yet, but who are interested in specific hematology topics. And then there's also different ASH Trainee Awards. You can just, literally put ASH Awards into Google, and there you will find different awards specifically for trainees, whether it's research or if you have an interest in medical education, things like the Trainee Council application, you can actually also access through there. So I would encourage you, if you are interested in trainee related things, beyond just the annual meeting, to look into those resources. They really are excellent things to look into.
Caitlin reminded me of the many amazing resources. Not to forget in case we have fellows or listeners from lower middle income countries, or if you know a fellow who's from a lower middle income country, there is an international outreach initiative that ASH has, whereby if someone is a hematologist or a trainee interested in hematology, even if they're not a hematologist yet, if they're in a country that's a lower middle income country, ASH grants them access to all of the free resources we spoke about, but also many paid, many resources that are paid for in the US. So basically, they kind of have free access to the ASH SAP, which is the self-assessment program, to the ASH educational program, which is the program we were talking about that gives you kind of that really great overview, and to some webcast features. I have to look it up because it's a long list of things that it offers. But the ASH annual meeting also has kind of highlights that occur in different parts of the world. And so a lot of that is broadcast and available to people in low and middle income countries. So to kind of remember in terms of equity and ensuring that there's access to educational resources for trainees everywhere, and it's not at a cost that is an issue or a barrier. This is a great resource that I really think people should take advantage of. But really, it's just called the International Outreach Initiative. And as Caitlin mentioned, I'm personally happy to take any questions that come this way, and or for sure, Caitlin and ASH staff are available for questions too.
Amazing. Thank you so much for sharing all these incredible resources. We're happy to put them out there and share them with the audience, and hopefully they'll find them useful. So as I wrap up today, my last question for both of you is, for those who are maybe just starting their medical training journey and looking at all these different ways to get involved, what would you say, first of all, is the importance of getting involved in networks such as ASH's training initiatives or the Fellows Forum? And what would you say to anybody who's trying to figure out exactly where to start?
Where to start? That is the big question. And for trainees or anyone who's trying to find passion, I think first it's really important to just look at what you're already doing and see what things really excite you, what things are you getting up in the morning looking forward to? How do you like spending your time? When are you doing things where time is passing and you're not even noticing? Take those, different passions, and then from there you can think about how to bring them together if they're different. For me personally, I'm really passionate about medical education and hematology, and the Trainee Council is a great combination of those two, but everyone has unique talents and passions, and finding ways to bring them together will really help you become successful in whatever it is you end up doing. Beyond that, I think reasons to get involved with the Trainee Council would be to further find opportunities where you can take the passions you have specifically related to hematology and really bring them to their fullest potential. ASH is huge organization that is for hematologists as a whole, from those who are practicing to the hematology trainees, and they are really focused on supporting individuals with passion for hematology. And with that, they have a lot of different things that they offer that can help you along the way and make whatever you're doing, maybe that much more impactful. And so that would be kind of my main takeaway. Maya, I'm not sure. I'm sure you've got other things to add to that.
No, really, that was a perfect summary. I think kind of thinking of it in my own words, in my own terms, um, to me, it was kind of being part of a community and finding like-minded people and kind of thriving off each other's ideas. I think when you're part of a community, you learn kind of your strengths and you learn the strengths of others and you learn how to work together. Each of us has some strengths and other areas where you can collaborate with others who have complementary strengths. And I think kind of meeting others and networking with others, I learned a lot about kind of what I am passionate about and what I'm good at and how that fits well with the bigger picture, but also where kind of I can reach out to a friend or work with others to advance a project. So I think community is a huge part of it. Learning from others. Like Caitlin said, sometimes as trainees, we go through experiences. I think you were mentioning earlier in our interview that basically when you're a trainee and you have a baby. Many people have done this before you. When there's a community, you can tap on shoulders and ask, like, what did you do? What was kind of okay? What were some lessons learned? So I think that's the strength of community. It's this kind of group knowledge that grows and that you contribute to, but you also learn from. So a huge part of that for me was feeling less like I didn't exactly know who to turn to for questions about different things in my careers. I sometimes didn't even know the question I had. But then you meet others who are posing really good questions. So I think that is a good question. I don't know. And what is the answer to that? So I think this is a great way to network. And whether you go into hematology, which everyone should, or something else, which I guess fine if you made that wrong choice. I think it's true that you really do need a community wherever you are, and that you kind of can advance and I think do better and take care of yourself and take care of your patients better when you are a member of a thriving community. So that's kind of a big part of what it is to me. And everyone is welcome to this community to voice their own kind of experiences, to teach us, to learn from each other. So I think that's a wonderful strength of this welcoming community.
Awesome. I think that's a great message to wrap up on, the strength of community. So thank you both so much for coming on today and telling us all about the ASH Trainee Council, all these wonderful initiatives that are going on, and advice for residents and fellows who are looking to expand their network and find this community. It was really wonderful to talk with you both today, and I really appreciate your time.
Thank you so
Thanks for
much
having
for
me.
inviting us. And like I say, if there's any questions, happy to talk with anyone.